Before we start, here's what you'll learn in this lesson step by step. You'll learn how many cases actually exist in the English language, and the number will surprise you. You'll learn which one letter turns an ordinary word into a sign that something belongs to someone. You'll learn why sometimes you don't need to add that letter at all, and other times it's added following a completely different rule. You'll learn the main secret of this whole topic, why saying chair's leg is a mistake, but ship's captain is perfectly fine. It's one secret, but it blows most people's logic apart. And at the end, 9 surprising exceptions await you that break the usual pattern, plus a simple 3-step algorithm that will close this topic for you forever. Watch to the end, and you'll never again wonder where to put the apostrophe. Let's go. How many cases does English have? If you're just starting to learn English, good news. There are only 2 cases here. Not 10, not 6, 2. They're simply called the common case and the possessive case. Nouns in English have no other cases, none at all. The common case is the base form. It's the form you see in the dictionary. Artist, customer, manager. It has a 0 ending, and you can only tell its meaning from the context of the sentence. Look at these examples. The artist thanks the customer. The customer thanked the artist. Notice that the word artist doesn't change at all, no matter what role it plays, whether it's the subject or the object. It's the word order in the sentence that tells you who is thanking whom. That's the common case. One form, and the meaning depends on the word's position in the sentence. You'd think, great, just 2 cases, what could be complicated here? But this is where things get interesting, because the possessive case, the one that shows ownership, has so many nuances and hidden rules that even people who've been learning English for years still regularly get it wrong. And right now, we're going to break down the first rule, the most basic one. But in just a couple of blocks, you'll learn a rule that flips everything you just learned upside down, so don't switch off. Let's start with the simplest rule, the one taught in the first month of learning the language. The possessive case of a noun shows that something belongs to someone or something. If the noun is singular, you form the possessive by adding an apostrophe and the letter S to the end of the word. Brother's laptop, colleague's umbrella. Simple? At first glance, yes. Apostrophe, letter S, done. Literally everyone knows this rule. But let's dig deeper. What if the noun is already plural, or already ends in S before we even add the possessive? That's where things start to get interesting. If a noun is plural and already ends in the letters S or X, you add only an apostrophe, no extra S. Neighbor's garden. Notice, not neighbors's, but neighbors. The apostrophe goes after the S and nothing else is added. Or here's another example, this time with a proper name, Felix's attar. The name Felix ends in X, so only an apostrophe is added, without an S. You might think that's the whole rule then. Singular, apostrophe plus S, plural ending in S, just an apostrophe. Logical, neat. Memorize it and move on. But here I have to warn you, what you just heard is only the tip of the iceberg, because English loves exceptions to its own rules. And the next block, about nouns whose plural form is not built by the standard rules, is going to blow apart the logic you just built in your head. Ready? Let's keep going. You just memorized. Plural ending in S, just an apostrophe. Makes sense, right? The word already ends in S. why add another one? Now, look at the word woman. Its plural is women. Does it end in S? No. Which means the just an apostrophe rule doesn't apply here at all. For nouns whose plural is not formed by the standard rule, that is, not by simply adding S, you add apostrophe S in the possessive, as if it were an ordinary singular noun. Women's club, people's opinion. Notice, woman to women is an irregular plural. And when forming the possessive, it follows the same rule as a singular noun, apostrophe plus S. Do you see the point here? English doesn't care whether the word in front of you is singular or plural. It only cares about one thing. Does the word already end in S? If yes, add only an apostrophe. If no, whether it's a singular form or an irregular plural, add an apostrophe and S. That's the first mind bender. But I've got another surprise for you. What if the noun isn't made of one word, but several? Where, you might ask, does the apostrophe go? On the first word or the last? The answer is coming up, and it's not as obvious as it seems. Take the word editor-in-chief. 3 whole words joined by hyphens. Where does the apostrophe go? If a noun consists of several words, S apostrophe is added to the last word, not the first, and not to each word. Editor-in-chief's decision. The apostrophe with S goes after the word chief, not after editor. Runner-up's medal. The apostrophe goes after the last word, up. Remember this principle. In the possessive case, English always attaches S apostrophe to the end of the whole phrase, not to its semantic core. And now, the reason it was worth watching this far. Remember the question from the intro? Why can't you say chair's leg, but you can say ship's captain? Here's the main rule of this whole topic. Remember it. The possessive with apostrophe S is most often used to show that something belongs to living beings, people, animals. In other cases, when we're talking about inanimate objects, the noun requires the preposition of. Look at these examples. The leg of the chair, not the chair's leg. You can't say it that way. The cover of the book, not the book's cover. That's not allowed either. There it is. The logic schools never explain. A chair is an inanimate object. It can't have its own leg in the sense the possessive case works for people. Brother's laptop, colleague's umbrella. So for inanimate objects, we use the of construction. First, name what belongs, then the preposition of, then the owner. You're probably thinking, okay, case closed. Inanimate objects only get of, animate ones only get S. But remember the ship's captain example from the intro? A ship is an inanimate object, yet there's an apostrophe with S right there. So somewhere in this rule there's a crack, and the next block is a list of exceptions no textbook will tell you about. Watch to the end. There will be at least 9 cases where inanimate objects get the living S. Here's the main rule of this whole topic. Remember it. The possessive with apostrophe S is most often used to show that something belongs to living beings, people, animals. In other cases, when we're talking about inanimate objects, the noun requires the preposition of. Look at these examples. The leg of the chair, not the chair's leg. You can't say it that way. The cover of the book, not the book's cover. That's not allowed either. There it is. The logic schools never explain. A chair is an inanimate object. It can't have its own leg in the sense the possessive case works for people. Brother's laptop, colleague's umbrella. So for inanimate objects, we use the of construction. First, name what belongs, then the preposition of, then the owner. You're probably thinking, okay, case closed. Inanimate objects only get of, animate ones only get s. But remember the ship's captain example from the intro? A ship is an inanimate object, yet there's an apostrophe with s right there. So somewhere in this rule there's a crack, and the next block is a list of exceptions no textbook will tell you about. Watch to the end. There will be at least 9 cases where inanimate objects get the living s. So, we've established that inanimate objects usually take of. But language, like any living organism, has exceptions, cases where apostrophe s is applied to non-living things. And you need to know all of them, because these are exactly where people who sort of know the rule tend to slip up. Exception 1. Nouns denoting time and distance. A month's rent. A kilometer's walk. Time and distance are perceived in our linguistic sense as something active, measurable, almost like a driving force, so they take the possessive as if they were living beings. Exception 2. Names of countries and cities. Germany's economy. Berlin's museums. A country and a city here aren't seen as physical objects, but as a collection of people living in them, which makes them almost an animate concept. Exception 3. Names of newspapers and organizations. The Guardian's editor. The BBC's report. Same logic. Behind the name of a newspaper or organization stand the people who make it. Exception 4. The words nation, country, city, town. City's parks. Nation's economy. Exception 5. The words ship, car, boat. Ship's captain. Car's engine. Here's the answer to the main question of this lesson. A ship or a car is a vehicle, not just an inanimate object like a chair. There's a theory that historically, in the English linguistic tradition, ships and vehicles were seen as almost animate. They were even given names, like living beings. That's exactly why ship's captain is correct, and chair's leg is a mistake. Exception 6. The words nature, water, ocean. Mountain's peak. River's current. Natural forces are also often personified in language. Think of how in literature, a mountain or a river is described almost like a living character. Exception 7. Names of months and seasons. Autumn's leaves. January's cold. Exception 8. Names of planets. Jupiter's moons. Exception 9. Fixed expressions, which you just need to memorize as they are without trying to explain them logically. At a stone's throw. At your wit's end. For goodness sake. In your mind's eye. Notice, all 9 categories follow one hidden logic. Wherever an animate object is associated with life, motion, people, or a force of nature, the language humanizes it through apostrophe s, and this works almost without exception within these categories. But you're probably wondering right now, how do I actually apply all this in practice so I don't get confused every time I open my mouth? That's what the next final block is about.
Let's gather everything we've covered into one working algorithm. It takes literally 3 steps, and after this video, you'll be able to run it on autopilot. Step 1. Ask yourself, is the noun that owns the thing singular, plural ending in s, or an irregular plural? If singular, apostrophe plus s, brother's laptop. If plural ending in s, just an apostrophe, neighbor's garden. If irregular plural, treat it like a singular, apostrophe plus s, women's club, people's opinion. Step 2. If the noun is made up of several words, apostrophe s goes on the last word of the whole construction, not on the semantic core. Editor-in-chief's decision. Step 3, and this is the most important filter. Ask yourself, is the thing I want to put in the possessive a living being, a person, an animal, or is it one of the 9 exceptions? Time, distance, country, city, newspaper, organization, vehicle, force of nature, month, season, planet, or a fixed expression? If yes, go ahead and use apostrophe s. If no, you're dealing with an ordinary inanimate object like a chair, a book, a wall, use the of construction, the leg of the chair, not the chair's leg. That's the whole secret. Not mechanically memorizing dozens of examples, but understanding the logic, why the language picks one form or the other. Once you feel this logic, mistakes like chair's leg will simply stop showing up in your speech because your brain will automatically check against this alive, treated as alive, not alive filter. And here's a little homework assignment right in the comments. Write how to correctly say the engine of the car, car's engine, or the engine of the car. Hint, remember exception number 5 from this video. I'll mark the first correct answers.
Conclusion. So, let's sum up. English has only 2 cases, the common case and the possessive case. The possessive is formed with apostrophe s for living beings and 9 categories of exceptions: time, distance, countries, cities, newspapers, organizations, vehicles, forces of nature, months, planets, and fixed expressions. Everything else that's inanimate is expressed with the preposition of. If this video saved you hours of confusion with apostrophes, hit like. That's the best thank you to the YouTube algorithm, so more people who struggle with this same topic get to see it. Subscribe. There are many more breakdowns of these simple but tricky English rules coming. And yes, if it's easier for you to memorize things visually rather than by ear, there'll be a bonus diagram in the description under the video, covering this whole topic in one image, the rules for forming apostrophe s, and the alive, not alive breakdown with the 9 exceptions. Wishing you success in learning English, and be sure to come back to the channel. There's a lot more useful and interesting content waiting for you here.